Brad Keselowski comes in with a solid third place showing here this afternoon. And Brad, you know, obviously, like you said out on pit road, it's not what you wanted to get, the win, but solid afternoon nonetheless. Yeah,
well, you know, it's third race, third points race of the Cup season. I feel like we've had a shot at winning all three. That's something to be really proud of. We certainly had the speed to do it in the last 2 weeks, and the execution to do it at Daytona. Just caught a bad break and just didn't quite execute it here today, but we're really close, and I'm really proud of that effort. I want to win really bad, but I guess the consolation is starting out the year with, you know, 3 solid finishes in the top 5, and, you know, just kind of backing up where we finished last year with solid runs. So, you know, for that I'm proud of the effort today to recover from a couple of mishaps. Certainly didn't give up there at the end. I thought I might have had a shot at Kasey and Kenseth, who won the race. If you know, I could have got by Kyle a little bit earlier, I would have loved to have gone up there and just put a little pressure on them and see who would have gave me a shot. But that opportunity didn't come up, unfortunately. But still, you know, like I said, solid day, great effort. And we're off to a really solid start, really the best start of my career by far.
We'll take questions for Brad. We're going to start in the press box. I think there's one up there, and then we'll come downstairs. Go ahead, press box for Brad Keselowski.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire Service. Brad, Matt held off Kasey on with no tires on the last stop. You managed to take third from Kyle with no tires. What does that say going forward at all?
It just says that I had a great car, and he probably did too. You know, whether you have tires or not, you still have to have a great car to be able to make things happen. And I think Matt definitely had a great car today. Probably not as good as this guy, but you know, Matt's a great racer, and he understands the sport very well. And he's not the guy you want to have to beat on old tires. That's for sure. He never has been.
Joining us now also is our race runner-up, and that's Kasey Kahne. He drove the number 5 Farmers Insurance Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Kasey, you certainly had a car that looked like could win the race. Led a lot of laps, passed people. You were fast. Just talk about how things went out there today for you, and then I know you're trying to track down that 20 there the last few laps.
Yeah, we had a, you know, started the race pretty good. Was a little bit too loose, and Kenny, Francis, and Keith, they made great calls to tighten the car up and get it driving, I mean, perfect. And from there on, it was about making the right pit calls, and the pit stops were good. So I just had an awesome car, and it felt about perfect, I think, throughout 3/4 of that race. And there at the end, we had 2 cycles on left sides, and I just got kind of, you know, Matt did everything right. You know, when I caught him, I was like, man, this is not the guy you want to have to race with 10 to go, because he's going to do everything right, and you're going to have to figure out how to squeeze by him. And you know, he had a fast car too, so it was difficult. He did a perfect job, and we came back second, but still a good run. I think we were 7th maybe after that one restart, and fought back to second. So we had a great car, did everything right. We just didn't quite get there.
Questions, open up the floor again for Brad or Kasey. We'll go to Lewis and then to Jim. Go ahead, Lewis.
Lewis, Frank Auto Week. I don't know if you saw Kyle take a line under the white line. Did you ever consider making that move to try to overtake Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. Problem was Matt was doing that. That's what he was doing. So, like, I could follow him and kind of stay in his draft a little bit and stick with him about the same amount. And when I didn't do that, he would pull away. So, I mean, it was definitely faster down there if you got a good run off turn 4 to do that down the front straightaway. But, yeah, he did it. So I had to go through the grass. I don't think that would have been good.
Go here to Jim, and then we'll go to Mark.
Jim Uttershaw, Observer. Brad, you were just you talked about the start to the season. In your brief Cup career, you've generally been coming from the back. I just wondered, being in this position, I know it's early, but do you suspect you and Paul might have some different way of approaching as the weeks go forward, coming from a different perspective?
Yeah, I want to win. Yeah. It is a different perspective because I'm not happy with top 5, so I want to win. And, you know, the last 3 weeks, really the last 2 weeks, and I'm sure when I get home tonight, I'm gonna go home and throw around some pillows and punch some things, because we've had a shot at winning all 3 of these races and come up short, whether it's circumstances or bad luck or today just a little bit of execution. And in retrospect, once you get a day to cool off from it, you say, wow, that's really good. 3 top 5s. It's how I'd want to start the year. But with the way I finished last year, I want to win. I wanted to win all 3 of these races, and I'm not happy unless we can do that.
Let's go over here to Mark, if we can, please.
Mark Anderson, Las Vegas View-Journal. Kasey, Matt didn't take any tires in the last pit stop, and he actually told his team with about 10 laps to go he thought that he'd blown the race. Did you feel at some point you were going to overtake him because of that?
Yeah, I really thought I was, but I just felt like I could have got there, the way my car handled throughout the race and how I could turn down in the center of the corner and carry a ton of speed doing it. I felt really confident that when I got to him, I'd be able to do that again like I had raced with Kyle and Jimmy earlier in the race. And when I got to Matt, I couldn't do it. So I was trying to put brake in it, messing with anything that I could, lift early, lift late, like try it all, and just couldn't find a way past him. So he did a really good job of keeping his momentum up, keeping his speed. He's kind of cutting across me off the corner, which would get me kind of tight, loose, and he put up a great battle and pulled it off on old tires. He did a good job.
Okay, let's go right here. Gentleman right here.
Yes, Brian Hildebrand, Las Vegas Review-Journal. For both Brad and Kasey, there was a lot of criticism coming into this week about the new car. Seemed like they were pretty racy out there. A lot of guys moving up through the field. Could I get both of your impressions on the new car?
Go ahead, Kasey.
Yeah. I've earned this one, I guess. I
finished better.
My car drove good. I felt like I could pass. I could race underneath the car, do things that maybe I wouldn't have been able to do in the past. So, first time on a 1.5 miles with this new Gen 6 car, and I would say, to have the same tire. This is the same tire also, which we didn't have last week, which was a big part of the Phoenix deal. So I think just the car itself today was I had a lot of fun driving it, and I thought it was a heck of a race. I got to race through cars, traffic, battle for the lead 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, I felt really confident with our Chevy SS.
Other questions? Ryan McGee, go ahead, and then we'll go. Oh, I'm sorry, Brad. You got any comment about that? Or you let Kasey handle that one?
No, I think you did an excellent job, bud.
Yeoman's job. Go ahead, Brian.
This for both you guys. We had the restrictor plates at Daytona. We had the kind of unconventional layout at Phoenix. Some races just look visibly fast, just watching it. Today looked like a bunch of guys that had kind of been cut loose. Did it feel like that out there today? Because it just looked fast.
Yeah, I thought it was a faster pace than what I've ever had. But then again, I've always had terrible cars here, so I'm not the best person to ask. It's by far the best car I've ever had here, and that thing would definitely rocket through the corners. And I think Kasey's was probably even a little bit better. So it was definitely a grueling pace. One thing I was really happy about was this car seemed to really respond to driving sideways, which I think is really good. I think that puts a lot of emphasis on the quality of driver you are to control a slide, which is a really good thing. I think that heightens the ability of talented drivers to run up front. I think Kasey's really good at that, obviously, and quite a few others that ran up front. I think if you look at the drivers that ran up front, they're generally the ones that you would say have a lot of talent and a lot of ability to handle cars like that. And I really like that. I think that's how it should be. I think that's what should differentiate the drivers and the performance in this sport. So I was really encouraged by that, and like you said, that also falls into the really fast race pace, with actual individual lap times. A couple times my spotter called out lap times, and I was thinking to myself, he must be in the wrong second bracket, and I think it's a big change for sure, but not a bad thing.
Ron, you have a question?
I'll let Kasey answer, Gary.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Kasey?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by the pace because of the practice speeds and the pace that we could run there for 10 or 15 laps, depending on how long you stayed out in practice. And today with it being hotter and a little bit slicker, like Brad said, I thought it was it was a lot of fun. I mean, you could get a little bit loose and not have to call it quits and get on the brakes and out of the gas and all that. You could just kind of drive through it and ease back on the throttle. So it was exciting. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed driving the car today and thought the pace was up. I've never had great cars here. I've had some pretty good ones, but today I've never driven that hard for 267 laps before either.
Go ahead, right behind you there.
Tom Zaleski, the Spectrum of St. George, Utah. Kasey, what on the final laps? You and Kenseth are chasing each other, and you've got to deal with the lap traffic in front of you. Who's got the spotter communication? Are you listening to it in the car and urging? What's going on with both parties in terms of the communication on that stretch run?
Yeah, I mean, as for myself, I'm just kind of paying attention to what Matt's doing and know what I need to do, where I need to place my car in order to try to get a run on him and at least get beside him and then see what can happen from there. As far as the spotters, Matt Spotter's probably trying to talk to a few of the guys that were lapping and hey, give us some space, maybe not. I'm not sure, but I was hoping maybe they would run Matt's line and he'd have to go to the bottom, and I thought maybe I could get a run that way. So I think we probably eased through 6 or 7 lap cars there, and most of them all just went to the bottom, and you could get runs and pass them, fairly easy. So it wasn't too bad. It didn't slow Matt up at all, which I was just, I was hoping someone at some point would slow him up a touch, but it never happened.
Let's go upstairs, and then we'll take some more down here. Go ahead, press box, please. Questions for
Lee
Kasey?
Spencer, Fox Sports. For either one of you two, how important are the restarts at this point? Because the last 2 restarts look very, very hairy, and to hear everybody say that they want to be in clean air, and obviously there's an advantage up there, can we expect some of the best action now to be coming out of the restarts?
You want it?
No, you got the mic. I'm just reading my
phone. I felt like I thought restarts last year, meant a lot, and if you didn't get a good restart, you'd lose those spots and it'd take 40 laps before you could get back by that guy. I thought similar today, everybody's trying to push a little bit, slow up, get a bump on the straightaway. Matt actually about crashed doing that, so it was, I don't know if he spun his tires or tried to wait for Carl a little bit, but he had him completely sideways in front of us. So, I think it's big. Try to get through 1 and 2 as quick as you can and get position on another car is key. I mean, if you can do that and get 1 or 2 spots, you're making it a lot easier on yourself for the next 40, 50 laps of that race run.
Other questions in the press
Let
box?
me answer that for Lee. Lee, I think, obviously there's double file restarts now, and, it's a change of pace.
When did they start?
They started in 2009.
Okay.
2009. That was the middle of the season. Pocono, if I remember.
Yes.
It was Pocono. I do know some things.
You got a good memory.
I can't remember if it was the spring or the summer race. It was one of the two, though. But I do remember the race.
I believe it was the first one.
I think what's important to understand, Lee, is that the cars run off of air. They use air, and that's really tough to explain to the media. And I look at the media as maybe the voice of the fans, I guess would be the best way to put it. So when you ask a question like that, I assume that you're asking for the fans. And so I answer this for the fans and the perspective of, even though you can't see it, the majority of what these cars are operating on is air, whether that's air to cool the engine, air to go inside the engine and combine with fuel, or air just so I can breathe, or air for the car to operate from the perspective of generating grip. And you have to think of a race car, in 3 dimensions, where it makes how it affects the air is X, Y, and Z. And you have drag, which we'll talk about on the speedways. Then we have downforce and side force. Well, as it pertains to restarts, when you get 2 cars next to each other, it creates this giant bubble, which is effectively takes away the air off of one of the cars. So that means that the 2 cars that are up front are, really stealing each other's air back and forth and making it really hard to race. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that puts everyone in a precarious position and really puts you, where the restarts become so important. So, with that said, you go back to those last restarts, and I felt like if we could have possibly got the outside and had control of the air, we would have been able to win the race. But obviously we didn't earn that from the perspective of coming off of pit road, and Matt did, and he did a great job of using that to his advantage, and that's essentially what got him out in the lead and won the race. But to your point, the actual restart itself is as important, if not more important as ever, as the sport continues to evolve into using aerodynamics to make the cars perform.
Let's go back here in the back. Come back downstairs. Go ahead.
Stephen Cole-Smith with Auto Week for both of you guys. We've had 3 very different tracks so far. Next week we go to another one, Bristol. Have you guys had much practice on the half mile, and do you have a feel for how this car's going to race on a short track?
Nope. That's why you got to watch.
Yeah, I haven't either.